Hello everyone, this is Nikit Lodi. Welcome to another session of Infor GRC. In the wake of high profile corporate scandals and in the light of new laws and regulations, executives are increasingly aware of the need to create policies, programs, and controls to address the fraud and misconduct. While acknowledging that there is no single approach to manage the risk, I'm going to cover a few programs and controls that are available in Infor GRC in this session, and that is what we are going to talk about, which is how we'll use the process insight feature in Infor GRC to monitor or capture potential frauds in Infor M3. All right, so let's answer your first question. What is process insight? Basically, process insight is a best practices automated business program and controls that span across procure to pay, order to cash, general ledger, HR, inventory, and these are the automated controls that provide you with a wide range of coverage because of the various control types that are available. And once the analysis is done using this feature and the result that is available on a single UI where you can view the entire set of details, you can attach evidences and you can mitigate the respective violations and eventually perform a closed loop remediation process. So that is what Process Insight is all about. It's an umbrella feature that covers most of your business process monitoring with the different modules, and it provides you a result in a complete 360-degree view analysis of the details, and you can also mitigate those violations and you can do your investigation. And to add to it, there are also reports that are available which are at the summary level and detail level both. So that is what is Process Insight. All right, with that background in mind, now let me start introducing you to the different control types. We'll start with the first control, which is a math type of a control. And for the math type of control, I'm taking an example of purchase order creation date is on or after the delivery date. So typical example of this control where what we're trying to emphasize is that there could be multiple risks that are identified as a part of this control. Either you are buying items that are not needed, or you are buying items from an inappropriate or a fraudulent supplier. This will also lead to increased cash outflow and potential financial losses. And this is also a typical indicator of missing procurement controls in your system or in your business process. So now let me switch over to M3 and let's look at the purchase order details, and then I'll capture the same violation detail in Infor GRC, and I'll also cover the control or the rule that we have defined to capture this kind of analysis. All right, now I'm logged into M3 and let me just put in the purchase order number, and as you can see it will list the purchase order number that I've filtered, and I can display the details of this specific purchase order. You can see the specific purchase order, the warehouse details, the supplier information and everything, and specifically the order date and the request delivery date, which is basically exactly the same, and that is the violation that we are referring to. So now let me switch over to GRC and let me show you the controls and the violation. So I'll navigate to Infor GRC and I'll navigate to monitor and violations page, and that's where I'll see the violation. And in the interest of time, I have filtered the violations for the specific control, which is the one that we selected, which is the purchase order created on or after the delivery date. And now let me look for that particular purchase order in this violation list, and I can find it right here. And let me drill down and show you the details. I'll start with the rule detail or basic control detail, which is the math type of a control. So we can see that this is a math type of a rule. You can see that we can set the priority based on how it is impacting your business, and you can see the owner of the rules. You can see when it was last updated and which grouping it belongs to. So since it is procure to pay process and related to purchase order, it is grouped into this particular rule book. And then we can see the condition details where you have defined using a math operator. So date difference operator is a math operator where we are using the day as the factor or the unit to calculate the difference between two dates. The two dates being the purchase order header and the receive delivery header information, and that's what we are using. And then we are adding some additional conditions to eliminate the noise, to ignore any null or blank data. And based on this logic, we have performed an analysis and we were able to identify the results. So we can see that the specific purchase order is a violation, and we can see the specific detail of 30th April being the creation date and 30th April also being the receive delivery header date or the receiving date, along with the reason details which is available to you. You also see more information around this particular violation. So basic information around the purchase order line item information, the item that is added, details around the item and item header information, information around the supplier party master, information around the supplier invoice, around the requisition, and all of that information is available right here on the same screen. Along with that, you have the mitigation options that are available, so you can mitigate this risk, and at that point you can also attach evidences for providing any justification if there are any. And you can also assign this to another business process owner to review and take action. You can discuss this with another business process owner. You can put a comment, and you can also download this information for further analysis and review. So that's what we have in terms of violation for the MAT type of control. There is one additional scenario that can be uncovered using a MAT type of control, which is backdated journal entry, and this is also a very important control that we can help you in terms of your general ledger monitoring. Typically, these kind of controls are important so that you don't have any accounting entries or any journal entries posted for wrong accounting period, and basically those transactions would need to be reconciled for compliance in terms of the accounting standards and also in terms of the prior period adjustments that are made. So let's take a look at an example for backdated journal entry in M3, and then we can switch over to GRC and see how that is captured in GRC. Okay, so now I am in M3, and let me specify the specific year for which I'm looking for the entry. And I have this particular entry which is for the BOA 002, and I can see the balance sheet total of 704 that was posted. So that's actually 7.04. And now let me switch over GRC and let's take a look at the violation. So basically, in case of M3, you might have to navigate to multiple screens to capture the entire set of details, but we have already compiled and we have collated all that information together, and you can see the entire picture in GRC. So I'll show you the journal creation date and the posting date right here. This was the entry that we looked at. So in terms of breaking down the violating object, you have the year, which is the 2020, and then we have the information about the BOA, which is 002, and then we have the voucher number, which is the rest of the information. Based on that, we have the violating object that is compiled. And then when you look at the details, the rule details in terms of the math rule, where we are using the date difference operator again to compare the posting date and the journal entry creation date, and that's what we are doing here. And we have added some additional conditions to look at the accounting entity information as well. And in terms of reason, we can see the details. So we can see that the journal entry was created on 23rd of June, and we can see the journal posting date of, which is basically 2nd of March, and we can see the amount of 7.04, which is the exact same record. So if we go back to M3, we'll see the same information right here, which is the entry date of 2nd March 2020, and the amount of 7.04. So this is the typical violation that is captured as a backdated journal entry because the journal creation date is of 23rd June, but the posting date is backdated to 2nd of March. And you have the additional information in research as well, just in terms of the journal entry header and the line where the information is captured. So again, this is a typical math type of a rule with backdated journal entry example. Moving on to the next type of control, which is a simple type of control that we have. So in this control, what we can do is we can compare the value of a particular attribute to another attribute or to a specific value that has been entered as a literal. So in this example, we can consider purchase orders with unusually high amount. So essentially, these kind of purchase orders would impact the cash flow projections, and they would also impact the cash outflow as well. And this is also a basic control that should be included as a part of the procurement cycle. So now let me log into M3 and let's look at unusually high purchase order, and then we'll check in GRC how the control is specified and how the violation is captured there. Alright, so now I'm back in M3 and I'm on the screen where I can see a list of purchase orders. So let me filter a specific purchase order here, and I can see that the specific purchase order is loaded for the supplier name here, and we can see that the gross order value is around 1 million, and we can see the other details as well. So this is where we can see the overall purchase order information along with other details of the PO. And now let me switch over to GRC and let me see if this particular violation has been captured by us. Alright, so I am on the violations page, and again I have filtered based on the control. So we have created a control where purchase order exceeding a specific amount. So when we say a specific amount, it can be anything based on the business requirement. So I have taken an example of 1 million here. It could be 100,000, it could be 10,000, 50,000. So that is something that can be configured into the rule. So based on our definition, we have created the violation. So let me search for the specific PO here, and yes, it is here, and we can see it as a violation. So let's drill down and take a look at the control. So it's a very simple control, as the name suggests, it's a simple type of a rule, and the condition is also pretty straightforward. We are comparing the extended amount, and it should not be greater than, basically, or if it is greater than the set amount, then it will be flagged out as a violation. So that's what we are putting in. So if the extended amount is greater than, say, 1 million, then it will be flagged out as a violation, and we can ignore the deleted and cancelled purchase orders, and all of the noise can be eliminated by adding those conditions. And that's how a simple rule can be created, and there are various scenarios that can be covered here. Rest of the detail of the violation page remain pretty much the same. You have the reason section, the research section, and the mitigation section available for each and every violation. So that's a typical simple type of a rule or a simple type of control that we looked at. So moving on to the next type of control, which is a duplicate type of control. So for duplicate type of control, we'll take the example of duplicate customers. So duplicate customer will impact the data integrity of your system, and it will also create unnecessary overhead in terms of reconciliation and maintenance of the data. So let's take a look at some of the examples for duplicate customers in M3, and then we'll look at GRC, how we identify those duplicates. All right, so now I am in the M3 screen, and let me search for one of the customers with their customer ID. So we have this customer here, Pepito Potato G, and we can view the details of the customer. So we can see that we have the customer detail information, we have a unique customer ID, and we can also see the address information. Uh, and now let me pull up another account or another record with the same customer name and address, but with a different customer ID. Okay. All right. So if this is a different ID, but essentially the same details. So if you go into display section, you'll see the exact same address, the same zip code information, and the exact same name. So essentially, this is a duplicate customer information present in the system, and that is available in M3. So now let me switch over to GRC and let me show you how this record is identified and how we define the controls to identify duplicate data in GRC. All right, so I have filtered the data set or the violations based on the duplicate type of rules. So for duplicate, we have two types. One is exact match and one is similar match. First, I'll focus on exact match and I'll show you the example that we looked at in M3, and then I'll also talk about the similar records. So now let me look up for the particular record here based on the customer ID, which is 605125. 60125, sorry. And yeah, we have the violation right here, and we can see that it is duplicated to multiple records, as there might be multiple uh, line items for the same customer. So what we can see in terms of rule is pretty straightforward. So in order to identify or define the rule condition, you just have to specify which are the fields you would want to consider to identify the duplicate. So it can be just the customer name and accounting entity, or you can match the customer name, the accounting entity, and the address information as well to get an exact match of the customer that is created in the system. So, and then we can add some additional conditions to ignore if there are any null and empty records in the data set. So that's how we have defined the condition. And now when we look at the reason details, we can see the duplicate. So we can see that the customer name is an exact match, and along with that, the accounting entity information is also an exact match. So that's how this is classified as a duplicate. And there are other accounts as well that have been classified. So with the same record of 60125, we have the other record that I showed you, and along with that, there are some other IDs as well that are classified as duplicate, which is just test data here. So we have multiple IDs that are created, and all of them are available here in the same violation detail. So you have a holistic picture of how many duplicates exist for this particular record, and you can view that and accordingly take your mitigation steps. So this is a typical exact match where we are looking for 100% match of the string or in terms of the data set. There is also another type which is called similar, where we use an algorithm to find the pattern and we do some analysis to find the match. So let me show you similar type of violations as well. So let's pick this one. So in terms of defining the rule conditions is pretty much the same. You define the fields that you want to match. So we are matching the customer name and we are matching the address information. So in some cases, if the person who is committing the fraud is smarter and is trying to play around with the system and trying to create a similar record but not exactly the same, but essentially the address information is exactly same, but the name is different by a threshold of 80 to 99%. Or I mean, this percentage can vary based on how you want to define that, but this is like a typical threshold that we enter. And then once you put in this information, we analyze using the algorithms, and we found the data set that's a match. So you can see that we provide the match percentage, which is 94% for the result set that we found. And in terms of result, when you look at the results, you'll see that the address information is exactly the same for two records, and there are two IDs. One is 12 and one is 009. In terms of address, it is exact match, but if you look at it in terms of the name, there is a slight difference because of which it's a 94% match. So as you can see, the last characters of N and B have been removed just to make it look different, but it is exactly the same record set. So that's how we can also identify similar kind of record. So these are the duplicate type of control that can empower you to find any duplicate data in your data set. With that, I'd like to conclude my session. Hope this session was helpful. Thank you.